sports right now. I'm your host, Body Boots, and this is Poops. And today we will be talking all sports. So Poops, how about we start off in the NFL today?
It's a good idea.
All right, huge upsets. I mean, can you believe this? You had the Bills and the Jags. Let's talk about them first. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that we should not go over our picks from last week. This was the worst week of picks I think I've ever had in my life. But if we're talking about the Bills, you have to lump in the Cowboys too then.
You got to.
And if you're going to do that, you got to put the Rams in there.
I know. But
Those three games
were
probably the three of a handful of leading contenders for the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And what the question we have to ask ourselves is, does last week mean something, or is it just some kind of fluke?
I completely agree. But I think what showed the most with the Bills losing to the Jags, what really showed was the Bills' offense is struggling. When we saw, last week we saw them against Miami, they very much struggled to get any kind of offense going. They ended up winning that game, but it was still, that was a very competitive game, came down to the wire, and honestly, the Dolphins are like now they just won, they beat the Texans, but they're a 2-win team now. How can they put up a very small amount of points against them. Now they put up 6 points against the Jaguars. I mean, how can you do that? It's the Jaguars' defense. They're not good.
They stink.
They stink. But I will admit it was pretty cool. Josh Allen sacked Josh Allen. Josh Allen got a fumble recovery on Josh Allen, and Josh Allen got an interception on Josh Allen. If you're not familiar with one of the Josh Allens, he's a linebacker on the Jaguars. And last week was the first time a sack has been evaluated, or a sack has been given to a player with the same name as the quarterback. Or same with the interception and the fumble recovery. That was interesting.
Interesting, but
it didn't really matter. Who cares about that?
The Bills have got to get their act together.
Absolutely.
Because you're right, it's not just one game. There's more than just one game. So this to me means it's more than a fluke.
Yeah.
A little more understandable is probably the Rams situation, because Tennessee is really a high quality team. They probably have, when you look at their record through the year, they've beat top-notch teams.
Absolutely.
Now, they lost their best player, and no one, including us, thought that they had a chance last week. But they rose to the occasion. It's sort of the next man up.
As much as it was such a terrible loss for the Titans, they really showed resilience this week.
Oh, they were amazing
against the Rams, because the Rams are a very good team. They're a very much so a Super Bowl contender, and
indeed,
definitely, I think this shows resilience from the Titans, not getting down in the dumps. I think this shows that the Titans are, I mean, you can't say they're a Super Bowl contender without Henry, but it shows that they're a solid playoff team, even though they don't have Derrick Henry.
Well,
and it wasn't even a close game.
No, and they also have a massive lead in their division. So they're going to go to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is the possibility Henry comes back by the playoffs.
Well, if
that happens...
Ian Rappaport of ESPN said they're guessing Henry's timeline is 6 to 10 weeks, and that was a week or two ago. So he could either be back in 5 weeks or 9 weeks. Say he gets back in the worst possible thing, 9 weeks. Okay, let's just do the math on this. He'll be back by week 1 of the playoffs, the wild card weekend. So, and you never know, they easily could get the bye.
Yep.
Because
if he's really fully recovered, that would mean he doesn't have the wear and tear of taking a beating through all those weeks.
absolutely.
If they can make it through, what do they have? Is it 9 more weeks? If it's 8 more weeks, I
Yeah.
think, right? So if they can make it through even 5 and 3,
Well, actually, no. I think there is 9 more weeks.
but assuming they
Yeah.
get that kind of a ratio of wins to losses, they're not going to get the bye.
No.
But if they are back at full strength with a Henry that is not worn down by a 17-game season, if he can fully recover from the injury, and they develop other guys who come to the forefront because of filling the gap of a superstar, they might make a run this year.
Absolutely. I completely
They certainly are a team of character now, you've got to say, and a lot of people are going to be rooting
And
for
I
the Titans.
I like Tannehill.
And you know what they say? Remember the Titans.
Yes, they do. What do you think of the Broncos Cowboys? We picked the Cowboys. We thought this was going to be an easy game for the Cowboys. Nothing bad could possibly happen unless they completely overlooked the opponent.
Truthfully, we thought all 3 of those games were going to be blowouts.
Yes, and you know what happened? They completely overlooked that opponent.
Yes.
I think the Cowboys went into that game thinking, should be an easy game for us. Well, it didn't turn out, Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? America's team not succeeding this week. Broncos taking them down 30-16, and at one point in that game it was 30-0. So really, it shouldn't have been 30-16. It should have been 30 max 7.
All of these teams that we're talking about, the ones that either should have won, in most people's opinion, or also the Tennessee Titans, who did win, but very unexpectedly. I think we're going to know a lot more about each one of these in the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely, yeah.
If
the Titans
if
can
they
continue
turn it, if the Titans can continue, if the Rams turn it around, if the Cowboys turn it around, if the Bills turn it around, I'd say these games meant very little, if anything, because it's a long season. But if they still struggle for another week or two, I think it changes the outlook for the whole year for these teams.
I completely
Even though they have good records right now.
That's true.
So, we're going to learn a lot in the next couple of weeks. And these are high-quality teams, or they fooled us.
Absolutely.
We're going to know
I agree.
in a couple of weeks.
What about the Ravens? Interesting. They went to OT against the Vikings. Now that was my big upset pick of the week. I thought it was happening. I thought I was gonna get Poops well on this one. He said he was picking Lamar, but
in some ways, the NFL is becoming a little more like the NBA. There are very good teams that are so dependent on one guy, and the Ravens are an example of that. If they didn't have Lamar, where would the Ravens be?
Yeah.
He does so much for that team. Kind of like in the NBA, Steph Curry on the Warriors, LeBron on any team he's on.
Yeah.
It's kind of become like that now. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. How about, come on, Bengals. Well, and as I said on our previous show, Poop specifically stated Burrow is the next Tommy V, Tom Brady. He is Have you seen a better duo than Burrow and Chase? Well, Jamar, you got to catch the ball in order to be a great duo.
There were a couple of plays.
So what do you have to say about this?
Well, first of all, I said I would apologize. I do apologize.
Come on! Right now!
I apologize.
Come on!
Clearly, I was wrong. I was wrong for this week. I have not lost hope.
And it wasn't like it was 41-16.
I know it was
not like it wasn't
was
close.
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
I don't really think Burrow had that bad a game. The drops that
Chase
a ball literally
in the
went
end
right
zone,
through his arms, kind of like if you were on a 10U team, a kid might do. I couldn't believe that, but I really don't.
But
think
he also fumbled once. Bad game for Chase.
Bad game for
Chase.
Things happen, but his numbers weren't that bad if you take out the things that weren't his fault.
Burrow?
Yeah, on Burrow. Chase, on the other hand,
did not play
there's
well.
no excuse. There's nothing good about what Chase did in that game. I don't know what was wrong with him. I don't know if we'll ever know. Certainly, if you look at the year, he's had one of the great rookie years of any receiver I can remember.
He had 200 yards. He had over 200 yards when they played the Ravens.
Yes. So
against Marlon Humphrey, who's one of the great corners in the league.
I myself have not lost faith in either one of those guys. Maybe to a little lesser degree, the team itself. I'm starting to question a little more than I was before Cincinnati, but I still believe Burrow is going to be a fantastic quarterback career-wise, and I don't see how anybody cannot believe Chase has the talent to be one of the great receivers. So I still believe in those guys. I'm hopeful of Cincinnati because they've had such their history has been so heartbreaking for any Cincinnati fan.
Absolutely.
For so long, the ownership of that franchise, there's so many bad things there. And it really looked like we just finally saw a light and they were emerging as a quality team. I'm still hopeful of that. I think the fans deserve it. They've waited so long. Let's hope that this was also just kind of an aberration and we see something different from those guys this week. But that's hope on my part. Maybe not. I don't really have a whole lot to back that up, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, on my end, I see you not agreeing with Burrow as the future Tommy B anymore. Tom Brady? Yes, no, still?
Well, it was at least premature. I will give you that.
All right. You know, what I think...
Another team that it's not on our list, but as long as you're mentioning Burrow and what it means for him and rookies and young guys, I think it's worth talking a little bit about the Chargers because they really turned it around this week. From where they were for one was a bye, but 2 game weeks and a bye where they looked horrible. Herbert looked like
he missed I think he missed 5 passes the whole game. He had 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. No picks. He played a perfect game, pretty much on all standards. And Keenan Allen, he said he needed to get back to the lab because that's what he calls it. Because he started dropping passes, but it showed that the Chargers weren't willing to let the season go just from 2 bad losses. They're now. I was a little down on the Chargers last week, but now they're showing resilience to me that I think I don't know. I think they're back to being a contender.
I really feel like it was Herbert that turned it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he was pinpoint all game,
absolutely.
And he really hadn't been.
For sure. No, because he threw the ball to a guy who was not even looking. Jared Cook is going like this, not even looking at the ball. And Herbert finds some reason in his mind to throw that ball to him. I don't know what could possibly been going through his head, but whatever it is, he bounced back this week, and that's what matters right now.
They brought Herbert in to turn that franchise around.
And so far he has.
And he did until those couple of weeks. But now it looks like he's got him back on track. Mm-hmm. They've got a good shot at anybody in the AFC, I would say.
Yeah, but the Chargers' defense has been horrible. They don't look like they can even stop a simple team like the Eagles.
The Eagles are not terrible.
No, but they don't even have. It's not like they have Miles Sanders. They've
got a real rushing game. Mm-hmm. They can kind of grind out.
They can grind out wins. Yeah.
They're not terrible. So, what the Chargers did, it wasn't like they were playing Jacksonville like the Bills were. This is different. To play, Philadelphia came off a good game the game before. So I think it means something that the Chargers turned it around on them. Herbert
Bounce back.
looked great. I'm hoping that that's the start of another run like they had earlier in the year, and I think it very likely will be.
I would just like to talk about the Browns a little bit. I think the Browns really showed this week how they can blow out a very good team. They showed that they can beat a 2-loss Cincinnati team, now 3-loss since the Browns gave them one. But they showed that they can beat a good team, a very solid team in the Bengals. They had a couple like not good losses. They lost to Pittsburgh. That's terrible. We know the deal with Pittsburgh. They look horrible right now. Truly horrible. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, what's going on? He can't throw the ball more than 10 yards. But, I mean, they showed that they can bounce back. And now you got to say, there is so many teams that are contenders. And now I think the Browns are a contender to at least make the AFC Championship.
And that's kind of what this whole discussion kind of leads to, I think, is, we've talked about a bunch of teams here. If you look at the AFC,
everyone can.
There's at least half a dozen teams that could all end up winning the conference now out of the AFC. It really feels like there's no standout team anymore. There's a bunch of teams kind of in the upper middle group.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows who's going to emerge? Whoever probably gets hot in the later stage of the year. As long as they have a good enough record at that point to get into the playoffs, could go all the way.
How do you think these upsets, though, affect the Super Bowl favorites? Do you think these are just flukes like the Bills? Are they still a contender? And what about, like, the Ravens almost losing?
Well,
Cowboys?
Was this week 9
Rams?
that we just finished?
Yeah, we just finished week 9.
If you go back to week 1.
No. The question, you have to understand the question here.
Okay.
How do these upsets affect the losses?
Well,
what do you think?
I'm going to tell you.
All right.
We have had different favorites every couple of weeks.
Uh-huh.
Who believes in Kansas City anymore?
I do.
Well, I don't believe in them anymore. I don't.
How can you say that when Mahomes is on the other side? You said that Mahomes can go off at any time! Any time! How can you say he can go? Easily they can go 13-4 this rest of the year. Easily! They just beat Green Bay. They had a win the previous week. How can you say they're not still a contender?
They just beat Green Bay.
Without
who had a quarterback.
No, I understand. Jordan Love played terrible.
That did not belong on that field.
Absolutely, I agree.
Here's what I will say.
Mahomes, that offense can go up at any time, and he appears to think that they can't.
Well, apparently,
Tyreek Hill can run as fast as anyone in the league. Travis Kelce, come on! Come on!
Apparently, there's a time they can't go off, and that was game time, because did they score a touchdown in that game?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe one.
Maybe.
Mahomes does not look like he has his old confidence. He doesn't look like the same guy.
You're wrong.
He still has skills.
You're completely wrong! He's Patrick Mahomes! He is what, 26? This guy's not going down. He's not Tom Brady. This guy's going on the uphill ride. Trust me.
What I think is that their team has problems now. And they are not the same team they were the last few years where they got to the conference championship and the Super Bowl. They're not that team right now.
What?
And unless they change something significant.
They are over 500, you know.
They might make the playoffs.
500.
They might eke into the playoffs. But when you beat a team like Green Bay who didn't have any quarterback at all.
Yep, you're right.
When you beat them in a close game, something is wrong with your team. You're not a Super Bowl contender. What I think this really showed something more positive about Green Bay than it did Kansas City. If they had been able to plug in Aaron Rodgers,
they would have lost.
They would have blown out Kansas City in that game.
No.
In other words, you think even with Aaron Rodgers, the
No, I'm
Packers
saying
would
the
have lost
Packers-
that game?
No, I'm saying the Packers would have won. But
Okay,
it wouldn't.
right.
It would have been close.
So you think Aaron Rodgers would have only made a little more than 6 points difference in that game?
Absolutely. No,
They,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm
the
saying
Packers had a quarterback that could barely handle the snap.
I'm saying that if the Chiefs were playing a better team, they didn't really feel like they had to push it that game. I'm telling
The Chiefs have barely won the games that they've been winning.
the Chiefs are good.
They're-
If Aaron Rodgers was playing in that game, they would have scored more points. They would have scored 20 points. I assure you that.
The reason they win is because Green Bay's D looks great. It has been looking great. It isn't just this one game.
Well, then it's not.
Their
Well, then
D
it's not Mahomes' fault. It's not the Chiefs' fault. It's the Packers that are. You can't.
My point is, Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers is much better than the Chiefs are right now.
Yes.
If they were to play a game, it would not be close.
Okay. That's crap, but okay.
So that's my point. Is the Chiefs have I'm not saying the Chiefs can't make changes and fix things, but it's going to take a lot because they're kind of stuck in this trap of whatever it is,
All right.
and they're not looking good.
All right. Well, let's go on to the NBA. Do you think the Warriors right now have the best record in the NBA? They're 8-1. Do you think they've shown that? It's very early in the year. We understand that. I'm just saying, have they shown us in this first part of the year that they could be a championship team?
I think they've shown that they're a team to be excited about again.
Mm-hmm. The ball movement. The elite has a nice stroke. Everyone on that team pretty much everyone can shoot. Anyone can get hot, too. And GP2, Gary Payton II, playing great defense. The crowd loves him.
Crowd pleaser.
But
And I think his dad is sometimes there watching.
yeah, his dad was there last night.
It's we've spent some years in Seattle, and we were fans of Gary Payton when he was playing. So it's kind of nice to see him watching his son and being excited about his son.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Warriors, for years they've been as fun a team to watch as there could be, especially in the pre-KD years.
2015, 2016.
And they're kind of back to that. They've got young guys that they've done a great job of developing.
JTA, GP2.
And then another wave coming on with Kuminga, Moody. They've got that. They've got their veteran core that can stabilize everything. They've got a great coach, and their style of play. It's a unique style of play that has always been fun for somebody that loves basketball. And I'm sure for the players, it's great fun to play in that style of game.
I think what really has been shown by the Warriors has been the fact that Steph this year really hasn't done that much. I mean, for Steph, he hasn't done that much. He's averaging like 24 a game.
He hasn't had to.
I know, but now they have Poole coming. They have Poole, who's playing great. He had 31, 26, 25, 3 great games in a row. But they have all these young guys coming into their own. Everyone has a role right now on that team.
Importantly, they know their role.
Yes.
And they're not fighting to try to do something outside of that.
Uh-huh.
They bought into the team philosophy, and it's working fantastic.
Everyone has a role on that team. Everyone fits, and that's what makes a great team.
Iggy has added something coming back.
With the defense?
His D, but also I think just his maturity.
Uh-huh.
And don't forget about what Draymond has.
Uh-huh.
Draymond is
and
such
Gary
an
Payton
influence.
II can fly.
Yep.
He's dunked. He's had a bunch of great dunks this year.
And all this, and hopefully in a month or 6 weeks, we've got Clay coming back. You add his kind of offense to this, and there's no telling how far they'll go. But
he's supposed to be back in Christmas is where they're mocking him.
They clearly look like a real playoff team. Now the question is, can they be good enough to beat the elite teams in a 7-game series? And we won't know that until playoffs.
All right. How about let's do some quick takes. How about let's do Heat Nuggets. What do you think?
Heat Nuggets. That game is in Denver, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I'm going Denver only because teams have a tough time adjusting to playing in Denver. The Heat are doing great. They're probably a better team than Denver.
But I'm taking Denver.
But I'm going with Denver because of home court.
I completely disagree. I don't see how you can possibly say that. Once more, I'm saying this. Hell, the Heat have played great. Jimmy Butler's playing great. Come on! I mean, he's an all-around great player. He's been just doing great things. They have Kyle Lowry now on that team. They have so many players. Adebayo. They have so many players who are very good. And they have everyone, once again, kind of like the Warriors, everyone knows their role and everyone fits.
Very good coach.
Very good coach. And
I really agree with what you're saying.
I'm taking the Heat.
I agree with what you're saying, but I do feel it's a long season. When you're on the road and you play in a difficult place, oftentimes the better team does not win, and that's why I'm going
So a difference
Nuggets.
of opinion here.
Difference of opinion.
All right.
We agree to disagree on that.
We do. Speaking of the Warriors, let's go Warriors-Hawks.
Now, that's a good game. That's going to be a fun
Hawks,
game to
the
watch.
Hawks have kind of been starting off slow.
They have,
They're
but
under
still,
500.
Trae Young.
They're under 500.
Is it going to be a fun game to watch?
I agree. I know it is.
You got Trae Young.
You got
Steph
You
and
got
Poole
Poole.
and basically the
and
whole
bench, the whole
crew of kids.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be a great game to watch. Whoever wins.
And who are you taking?
I would take the Warriors, obviously, but they're both. I think. Well, I know the Warriors are coming out back to back. I'm not sure if the Hawks are. So that gives the Hawks a little advantage there.
It's in Golden State.
Yeah, it's at home for the Warriors. I'm going to go Warriors, but I think it's going to be a very fun game to watch.
I like that pick too. I'm going Warriors just because I think the bench will overtake. I think it's going to be all about the bench for the Warriors tonight. I think that they have too many guys coming off who are just better than the guys on the other team coming off the bench. And I think that'll just play the role. And I think it'll be a close game after the first quarter. Then they'll probably have a lead at half. Third quarter has really been their quarter this year. I think they'll go off. They'll stretch that lead. And the bench will be able to maintain that through the fourth. So I'm going with the Warriors.
They also seem really excited about the start they're off to. So I think you get momentum that way, and I think they're loving winning right now.
All right, second to last pick, Bulls Nets.
Oh, I hate the Nets. I have to say it.
Everyone does. Who would like that team unless you're in Brooklyn?
I'm going to go Bulls there. Is it in
Brooklyn?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a tough one. The Nets obviously have got the best player in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you have to go Nets.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I'm not going with the Nets. Absolutely not. I'm going.
Well, I think we both feel the same way.
DeMar DeRozan's playing great. He's one of the best.
I know the Bulls are one of the real improved teams.
Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan is averaging, I think, 27.5 right now. I think that's correct.
Is either one of them coming off is it a back-to-back for either team?
I don't think so. But.
Well, then we agree to disagree again because I'm going to pick Nets.
I'm picking Bulls.
Okay.
I think the Bulls are just. I think they have. Because they also have Vucevic.
Indeed. No, they're a good team now.
Yeah, absolutely.
No question.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sixers next.
Oh, well, I assume everybody knows now that Embiid is out.
Yeah,
he's COVID protocol. So who do they really have? I think you can't go with the Sixers.
Tobias Harris.
They don't have enough. Let's just say that.
I mean, Seth is playing great. Seth Curry.
Seth is making his mom proud. You got to like.
He has one of the highest shooting percentages.
He's shooting unbelievable. I think his overall percentage is like 60-some%.
I know.
He's shooting unbelievable. He's making Steph jealous. But I feel like you can't go with the Sixers.
Yeah.
Without Embiid.
I'm going Knicks as well.
Yeah, and Knicks are a legitimate team now. Yeah. You're not like picking a crazy upset there. No. It would be a close game if they did have Embiid. Without Embiid,
I think.
I'm taking the Knicks for sure.
Yeah, same. All right, how about we get on to not doing game picks? We're going to talk about what is Jimmy Butler proving this year. He are a 2-loss team right now. I think they're 7-2. What do you think he's doing this year? He's averaging over 24 points, 5 or 6 rebounds, and 5 or 6 assists. What is he doing right? What's different about him, you think, than last year? What do you think is different about this team?
Well, they've added pieces.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler's been one of the top NBA players
Nobody's
for
scoring
several years.
very well
Well,
right now.
the scoring has to do with how much he's getting the ball, whether he's the first option or not. He had the ability to score points 5 years ago, and he did. He may not have had the right.
The defense has been amazing.
Well, he's known as one of the best defenders in the league.
Yeah.
And he's a tough guy to guard. He's just a tough guy, period.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that there's any big change this year. I really think it's just something built there. They've been building this for a couple of years.
Lowry.
Yeah, and Lowry was an amazing pickup. I never thought he was going to leave the Raptors.
Neither did I.
I was shocked when that happened. And now, he's getting older, and there's reasons why maybe the Raptors, and he decided to go separate ways. But he was such a core of that team. I thought that was a sad thing, him leaving. But it's great where he ended up because they're a real contender. He enhances the team. You're asking if Jimmy Butler is a little better. Certainly having Lowry there is making every player better on that team.
Mm-hmm.
He's such
Absolutely.
a facilitator, and he's just such a great teammate. That was clear in what he was able to do when he was on the Raptors. And really, he doesn't have to do as much here, but it's kind of the same role.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy Butler is he's a guy that belongs in a very small group in the NBA. There are very few players with that combination of talent, drive, determination, toughness. He's just a very, very good player.
Agreed. But I think he's proving that he can just carry a team on his back. I mean, he did it through when he was in the bubble. But this year, it's the beginning of the season. He was just doing it for a little while there in the bubble. But this year, it's been crazy.
Well, and they're starting to kind of get
shoulders.
into the spotlight now because everybody knows they're a serious
Mm-hmm.
contender. They could easily be in the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it highlights him a little more that way because it's known from day one this year that that's who they are. They're not coming out of the blue as a team that just bursts onto the scene. So he's getting more attention.
All right. What do you think about this? Why do you think there's no dynasty or unbeatable team in sports right now? Like I mean, if we're being serious right now, let's check out all sports. Okay, we had the baseball World Series. We had the Astros have been good, but how about the Braves coming out of nowhere? Really? I mean, they've been okay, but that's one thing. Then you have the NFL.
But the real teams that were expected to be in the World Series weren't in it.
No. It was Dodgers were expected. They weren't in it.
Yeah, and the records weren't that, especially the Braves. They were barely over 500. So that's kind of a oddity. You look at basketball now, it's too early to tell what's going to happen. But you've got teams that weren't so good last year that are emerging. And you had teams last year that emerged from really not being contenders.
Mm-hmm.
And then in football, it really seems like nobody is dominant anymore. Not everybody, but you've got half of the league that, if they get on a hot streak, could end up being the team that does a run in the playoffs. So, in a way, I guess that's good because it
gives everyone a chance. It's kind of like
you could be a fan of most teams and still feel like you got a chance. So I think that's an exciting thing. But it's also fun when there's a dynasty.
A couple of years ago, you had the Warriors, then you had the Patriots. There was really a bunch of unbeatable teams in pretty much every aspect of sports. But now, I mean, there's no dynasty right now.
No, I
because
agree.
the Patriots aren't a dynasty. You can't say that, but they are emerging.
And predicting who's going to be in a Super Bowl or the NBA Finals.
Impossible. You thought Kansas City was going to be the dynasty. They're having a little bit of off year. Once again, I'm going to say I believe they're going to bounce back. I think they're still going to have a good rest of the season. But, I don't really know why.
And the Patriots could be in the Super Bowl.
I don't really know. In the NFL...
Did you happen to hear that?
there is so many teams that can make the AFC or NFC championship on both sides. On the NFC, you have Rams, Cardinals, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, New Orleans. There's so many teams.
Absolutely.
And then on the AFC side, Raiders, Chargers, Patriots, Bills, Kansas City, Tennessee,
Goes on and
Cleveland, Bengals. Pretty much every team in the AFC has a shot.
Yep. I know you're getting
Except
ready.
maybe the Jets.
Yes.
And
the Jags.
And the Jags.
I know you're getting ready to wrap up, but maybe we should do a quick prediction on tonight's game, Steelers-Bears.
Steelers-Bears, well, I mean...
I think we may be on opposite sides of this game.
Who are you taking?
Who are you taking?
Bears.
Oh, I was going to take the Bears too. I'm shocked. I thought you would go Steelers.
I don't like the Steelers.
I don't like the Steelers either.
No, but I don't like them this week.
I'm really looking for Fields to kind of burst out tonight.
Me too. I'm hoping he has a great game.
It's probably starting any minute, but Fields is going to be fun to watch, I think, and it might be a breakthrough game. So we're both on the same side of that game.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for watching Sports Right Now. And so long from